Hi, a number of prominent indie artists are leaving Spotify, and so should you. Here's why. Generative AI is a useful tool. I especially enjoy Photopia's generative fill function. However, that's all it should ever be. But to many folks, they have deemed the advancements of AI not as a quality of life upgrade, but rather an outright replacement for humans and artists. Large model generative AIs are trained on existing art, but so are we. Although the biggest difference between AI and us is that we train ourselves on our favorite pieces of art and create stuff inspired from it. We put something of ourselves into our works. We convey who we are as human beings. What brings us the greatest joy on earth? What breaks our souls into pieces? What makes our blood boil? And most importantly, what makes us human? AI can't do that. It's a machine. Unless AI can pass the Turing test, I doubt it'll be sentient anytime sooner. So unlike us, who takes our inspirations, transforms it, and places our humanly intents behind it, AI doesn't. Because they are, at the end of the day, ones and zeros. They take, process, amalgamate, and spit without a single thought. I say all this to illustrate one of the many problems with AI or music streaming apps in general. It's choking under the weight of a deluge of dog shit. It's been proven time and time again that music created by AI is being uploaded freely on platforms without much in the way of intervention. And the folks who uploads it knows this, so they willingly steal not only art, but attention and potential earnings away from already struggling artists. Look no further than the recent oddity which happened with a non-existent band called The Velvet Sundown. It's obviously AI, from its band photos, description blurb, and of course its music. Yet, somehow, within a week of its creation, it garnered a staggering 1 million streams on Spotify. In fact, it even got into one of Spotify's many mega playlists. Yet, Spotify has yet to do anything about it, because why would they? To its executives, there's no such thing as preserving artistic integrity. They are not a museum, they are in the business of advertising and data harvesting. And the way they are able to collect their profits is by drawing users in with audio content. It doesn't matter what it is, they don't care. As long as it gets users to stay on their app, the better. So if artists are getting reamed in the process while AI music chokes everyone out, well, fuck them, right? At the end of the day, we aren't humans to them, we're nothing but raw numbers and data. As Peter Sun, co-founder of Pirate Bay, succinctly put it on Liz Pelly's Mood Machine, its creators were advertising dudes who wanted to sell advertising and realized that music was cheap. The overlap between music streaming and weapons AI software development are two circles in a Venn diagram which should never touch each other. Because why the hell would it ever? Except if Godspeed You Black Emperor has taught us, with your liner notes in Yankee UXO, there's a surprising amount of overlap, because the mainstream record label industry is a capitalist venture, and so is the military-industrial complex. On June 16, the Financial Times reported that Daniel Ek, the co-founder and CEO of Spotify, had invested into Helsing through his investment company. Who is Helsing, you may ask? Well, they're a tech startup specializing in creating AI military software. They have created AI systems which has been integrated into fighter planes, ground stations, and their own drones. Oh yeah, if you think merely creating military software is not too morally reprehensible, they also create honest-to-God physical weapons to be used on humans. Meet the HF-1 and the HX-2, meekly described as loitering drones. They are essentially drones controlled by a human which will loiter to its targets and explode itself. By the way, another name for it is kamikaze drones. Oh, it's not just killing folks from the skies. In 2025, Helsing unveiled their new product, a underwater drone, the SG-1 Fathom. Ek's latest round of funding to Helsing isn't new. It was announced back in November 2021 that he, through his investment company once again, had invested 100 million euros into Helsing. The latest round of funding has secured Helsing 600 million euros thanks to the efforts of Ek. And if you're asking yourself how he's getting money for all of this, since 2023, Ek has cashed out over 800 million euros from Spotify. Not only that, they recorded a record high 509 million euro profit in the Q1 of 2025. So as you can see, Spotify just doesn't have the coffers to pay artists a fair wage, so suck it up, buddy. On average, artists gets paid 0.3 to 0.5 cents per stream. That's barely half a cent. The pay is lousy. Despite the lousy pay, it's not as if there's benefits to staying in Spotify since you'll be forced to play the algorithm game. I hate this game. I work in an industry which has to bow down to techno-oligarchs and their unfair SEO systems, so they have a special place in my heart for how much I despise it. However, the Spotify algorithm game is particularly messed up. There's a reason why Liz Pelly's book, Mood Machine, has become so highly coveted by music critics, writers, and lovers in the half year it has been out. In it, she portrays just how destructive Spotify's playlistification of music has been for the way we consume music, be it the musicification of songs through their wildly popular mood-based playlists, forcing musicians to make songs of a certain ilk just to get streams, or perhaps it's the way they've bulldozed the entire industry by caring, first and foremost, about profits rather than uplifting the musicians whose art they benefit from. Or maybe it's their cherry picking of who gets to be recognized on their platform and who doesn't, meaning indie artists regularly gets a shunting while big labels gets a boost. I suppose you could make the argument that Spotify is better than pirating, but in reality, since its funding, it was never meant to beat it, but just become a more profitable version of it. As Pelly describes in Mood Machine, Ek never saw fellow Swedish site Pirate Bay as a disruptor. Rather, it was competition, in the same way Google and Apple compete. I suppose it shouldn't even be a surprise considering Spotify initially started with employees uploading their own personal music onto the site without permission from artists and labels. Not only that, they also pirated music en masse so they could have content for their site. Want to know how we know this? Rasmus Fleischer, a writer and researcher who helped start the collective which spawned Pirate Bay, noticed music from one of his bands was on Spotify. The odd thing was their music was exclusively available on Pirate Bay only. In fact, Spotify was largely made up of unlicensed music until 2009 when they performed a big clean. So that in itself should tell you exactly how Spotify runs their business. It's never about the music or the art. It's about ads. And their algorithm is only interested in making you stay on. You can play the game, but you'll never win. A handful of artists have announced their departure from Spotify. From Deerhoof, Xiu Xiu, and King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, it's a nice list which will no doubt grow with time, but it's not lengthy enough. This is not a video essay, nor a commentary on Spotify and its CEO's actions. No, this is a tutorial. Musicians understand how destructive Spotify as a company is, so the brave few has decided to take their music down. If you're an artist, I urge you to do it as well, but if you don't, it's completely understandable and zero blame can be put on you. In an industry that is so exploitative of its artists, any avenue of pay and attention you can get is needed, and the reality is for a lot of folks, it's Spotify. However, the true moneymakers are us, its users. We are the data crop they harvest, so it's time to spoil their pickings. Firstly, cancel your subscriptions. Okay, so after you leave Spotify, what's next? Well, you have two options. Go to another streaming platform or leave streaming apps entirely. Let's start with the first option. Spotify's payout is one of the lowest, so what's the best alternative? Well, the best overall is Tidal. On average, they pay 1.3 cents per stream, a far cry from Spotify's piddly half of a cent high mark. Although the most expensive option for users, if you want to help your favorite musicians, you need to chip in the money. And luckily for you, there are good incentives to do so, mainly lossless streaming. This is fantastic, as it means you get to stream music in CD quality. Trust me, it's better. You may not notice it, but play music on a decent DAC amp and speaker or headphones and there's a noticeable improvement. Right behind Tidal is Apple Music, paying 1 cent per stream. If you're already an Apple user, I'd switch to this. Although there is an Android app as well, so don't worry, but from what I hear, it can be a little buggy. Luckily, they too have an option for lossless streaming, but if you really don't care and want to save a few bucks, they have a standard version. If you're a broke ass bitch like me, YouTube Music is a good alternative. YouTube Music is included with YouTube Premium, so if you're a regular YouTube watcher, this is an incredible deal. This means if there's an obscure album which hasn't been uploaded to YouTube's music app, there's a good chance someone has uploaded it to YouTube Regular as a full video, and you can stream it like it's a normal song. Wink wink, nudge nudge to all fans of Cindy Lee's Diamond Jubilee, by the way. So not only can you guarantee payment per views to your favorite YouTubers, like me, but also to your favorite artists on the music app. However, the payout isn't exactly an incredible improvement over Spotify. Official uploads of songs on regular YouTube can net you half to 0.7 cents per stream. On YouTube Music, the pay-per-stream rate is increased to 0.8 cents. But the fact you get both YouTube Premium and Music with this subscription, which costs less than Spotify's cheapest option, and it still pays out better than Spotify, should illustrate just how scummy they are. But if you want to use the streaming platform with the best payout, that'll be Napster. Yeah, that Napster. On average, they pay out 1.9 to 2.1 cents per stream. Ironic how a former pirating platform is the one which pays artists the most. Hi, this is a note from editing me. After writing this and while editing this, I found out that Napster is being sued by Sony Music over missed royalty payments of over $9.2 million. God damn it, Napster. I fucking believed in you. Now, here's the outright best option. Quitting streaming entirely. This option is the hardest, as streaming is so unbelievably convenient that it's hard to live without it, especially as a music fan who wants to listen to everything new. However, it doesn't mean you can't straddle between buying music and streaming. I use both YouTube Music and have a big old library of albums I've bought over the years. So, here's a quick guide to playing downloaded music in today's era. The best marketplace to buy digital music is, of course, Bandcamp. I fucking love Bandcamp, and there's a good chance that you too love Bandcamp. I've bought a lot of albums from it over the past years, and it's amazing. Not only will they allow you to stream all the music you've bought, but they will also allow you to download it in whatever format you want. From low bitrate MP3s to FLAC lossless files, it's incredible. Not only that, when you buy an album on Bandcamp, the artist receives 90% of the pay, rather than streaming platforms' 70-30 split to musicians. Plus, on Bandcamp Fridays, all purchase profits will go directly to artists. Although if you already own an album physically, you can rip it to a digital format. Ripping CDs is simple. All you need is a USB CD reader and a laptop. I like using MusicBee to rip it since you can edit the metadata directly, making sure the titles, artist names, date, and album art is fixed. They also have an auto tag feature, which is great because it means you don't have to fiddle with the files individually. Vinyl ripping is a little trickier, but not impossible. Some turntables and external phono preamps has a USB output, but it sometimes can be a little hit or miss. My old Project Phonobox E's USB output was good enough for rips, but yours may not be. But if yours doesn't have one, don't worry. If you already have a USB audio interface, you already have the gear. Plug the output from your phono preamp, or if your turntable already has a phono preamp, go straight from it to your audio interface's RCA or auxiliary input, and presto, you have a signal which you can record. Of course, you'll need a software to record it with, and I'd recommend Audacity. It's free and easy to use. Just hit record, play the whole album, splice it to its individual tracks, and export each of them separately. Once again, I like using MusicBee to edit the metadata. Here's another tricky thing. If we were still in the world of MP3 buying, there would be little qualms about how to store and play it on a portable device. However, we are now in the age where our music playing device, phone, GPS, portable game console, notepad, and a ton more is condensed into one little slab. Because of it, most phones today aren't equipped to hold such high amounts of downloaded music, whereas in the good old days of music downloading, MP3 players and phones had SD cards, which means there's no restriction to how much space you have. Not to say there aren't any phones with SD card slots out there. Really, the only ones with SD slots are what I like to call poverty phones, which are just ultra budget phones. But guess what? I got a 256GB card in my dogshit Motorola G45, and it's filled with FLAC files, so sucks to be you, flagship users. Storing downloaded music on your phone is tough, especially when your memory is limited. The best thing you can do is cloud storage, but that in itself is a whole nother can of worms. If you aren't willing to downgrade to poverty level phones, I'd suggest getting a digital audio player, or we're just gonna call it MP3 players because I'm willing to bet most of you aren't audiophiles. You may be looking at rooting old iPods after watching some DangPod videos. However, the DAC amp in them aren't amazing, plus you'll need to tear one apart to upgrade its memory and battery. Really, the best option is to get a new MP3 player. Luckily for you, Chinese audiophiles have essentially made the hi-fi scene accessible to all, and there are incredible MP3 players for pretty cheap. The best player is the Hibi R1. Unfortunately, I can't tell you how good it is since I don't have it, but its reputation in the audiophile community indicates it's a good deal. Frankly, the community are a bunch of pedantic dickheads. I'm one of them. So the fact most points to it as the benchmark starter player says a lot. Frankly, I think anything lower than a Hibi R1 can be a little sketch, but once again, I don't have first-hand experience with this. So if there are any DAP aficionados out there, do give some recommendations in the comments. But where I can give you first-hand experience is playing music through your phone and PC. Hardware-wise, if you have a phone with an SD card, well, get a high-capacity card, fill that puppy up, and slot it in. But if you don't, then you'll need to store it locally on your phone. There are apps which lets you play music from a cloud storage like Plex, but at that point you might as well stream music. As for music software for phones, I've tried a lot, but the best one right now is Musicalet. The options for library management are vast, metadata editing is very easy, there's quite a fair few customizations that can be done to its UI, and it's just plain intuitive. But it's only available on Android. If you're an Apple iOS user, I honestly don't know. But once again, if you're an Apple user, do recommend some options in the description. For PC, there's a lot, but there's really only two that's worth your time: Foobar 2000 or MusicBee. I prefer the latter, but both are pretty much on par with one another. You can easily edit metadata, manage your library, and even play online radios through it. Really, the only tricky part is setting it up. You'll need to find a skin you like, edit some hotkeys and library tweaks to your own preference, but once you have it all set up, it's dead easy to save your settings in a file and import it to a new PC. Look, I know this is all very complicated and annoying. Music streaming has two advantages, and that's convenience and simplicity. In fact, that's why Spotify became so popular, because the company was so hyper-focused on making it a significantly better experience than pirating that the idea of paying for a subscription made it worth it. And to some degree, that's why digital pirating in itself became mainstream, because getting dozens of your favorite records on your PC from the comfort of home is significantly better than going to a record store. The biggest pain in the ass about boycotting is that it becomes a pain in the ass, which is why mass boycotts is a hard sell to the general public. But right now, we have options, and some of them are pretty straightforward, from switching to other streaming platforms like Apple Music or YouTube Music, or just quitting streaming entirely. Because de-Spotifying your life is one of the best things you can do as a music lover. The company has shown itself over the years to not care for its musicians, has close to zero ethics, and its CEO and C-suite executives actively funds the arms industry. Not only that, in comparison to other platforms like Apple Music, Tidal, and YouTube Music, they all either have better sound quality, better features, and pays its musicians better. So, to all Spotify users, please leave the platform. And that's that. Thanks everyone for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, do subscribe and leave a like, or don't, I can't force you. And if you'd like to support me in the channel, I have a Ko-fi page set up to throw me a few bucks, and I've started up a second channel where I upload mixes called Mixes from the Archive. So do give it a subscribe if you want to hear whatever thing I've been listening to. Plus, if you'd like to keep up with whatever I'm doing, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. So yeah, I'll see you all around.